Hello, namaste. Today's class is a yin style class, which is great for both vata and pitta doshas. Not so great for kapha, but if you are feeling a little overwhelmed, a little spacey, maybe a little irritable or upset, this will be a great practice to just kind of calm down a little bit, slow down, and spend some time for and with yourself. So, my yin requires a lot of props, and I hope it does for you too. So we're gonna hold stretches for 3 to 5 minutes a piece. So having some props available will certainly help make things a little more comfortable so you can release and relax a little bit deeper into each posture. So I have a blanket over top of my mat just so I'm warm, which is really important for Vata dosha. I also use a chair. I use a few different blankets during class, either for support or for warmth. I use a pillow and a yoga bolster for one of the postures, and then I use a yoga block to rest my forehead for for one of the poses as well. So whatever you've got around, grab. I would highly suggest a chair and a couple blankets and maybe some pillows if you don't have a bolster, or maybe a couch cushion will be good as a bolster substitute, just to help support you as much as possible and make sure you're layered up and nice and warm, especially if you're vata. If you're pitta, you can be cool, that's okay. And let's get started. Fiona's already all relaxed and calm, so let's be like Fiona and just chill. We are going to start today in my favorite place to be, which is lying down. We're going to start in happy baby pose. So you can start by hugging your knees in towards your chest and then bring the knees a little bit wider. And then you can either grab onto the feet, or you can grab onto your shins and calves, or maybe you want to grab onto the outer thighs, whatever is going to be the most restful way to be in this pose. You can also use a strap around the legs and grab onto the strap for a little bit more ease. But take your time getting into this stretch, getting into this position, and then once you find that place, try to find as much ease as you can, surrendering into this position, feeling the lengthening through the inner thighs, maybe through the hamstrings, maybe in the low back. Keeping your mind focused on the breath, feeling the inhale traveling into your belly. The belly expands, maybe pushing into the legs. And then exhaling, feeling the belly release. Or you can focus on the sensations that are happening in the body. Noticing where you feel a release, where you feel a stretch, maybe where you feel a little bit of tension. That's okay too. Just be present with it. And you can toggle your attention back and forth between the breath and the body, or maybe toggle your attention between one area of the body, maybe an area that you feel a lot of sensation in, and then switch your attention to a different part of the body that really isn't feeling a lot of sensation. This is a great way to calm the nervous system and change your brain's relationship with the body, not focusing on pain or sensation, but instead de-escalating it. So some ideas while we sit here still in each pose. Some ideas of things to keep you here in your yoga space as best as you can. And if you find the mind starts to wander, that's okay. Try not to run too far away with it and just bring yourself back to your mat, to your pose, to your breath, to your body. And if at any point during our class today you feel you need to come out before I take you out, feel free to do so. There's no need to sit in discomfort if it's too much for you today. Taking our last few breaths here in our happy baby. And when you're ready, bring the feet down, maybe windshield wiper your knees side to side, just to kind of invite some movement back in the hips and the legs. Or do any other movements that might feel like a good way to release from that. And as you're ready, rolling to one side, pushing yourself up to a seat. And then we're going to make our way into a pigeon stretch for your hip. So I'm setting up where I'm going to be face down. I have a bolster kind of along my hips, so it's supporting my hips and my kind of upper legs. If you want to stay reclined and do reclined pigeon, feel free to do that, crossing one ankle over the opposite thigh and maybe hugging it up towards the chest for a deeper stretch. Using whatever props you have. If you want more support under the hips, you can add blankets or pillows. You can also use supports for your head. I'm using a yoga block. You can use pillows or blankets here. Finding a way that you can surrender into this pose as much as possible. Feeling an intense stretch sensation, but no sharp pains, and finding enough ease that you can rest here for a few minutes. Maybe here you can feel, as you breathe in, feel the belly expand into your front leg, maybe into your supports. And notice as you stay here whether your sensation of stretch becomes more intense, or maybe it becomes a little less intense as the body releases into it. There's no right or wrong, just noticing. Feel free to make any adjustments, small movements to maybe deepen the pose if you're ready, or maybe to come out of the pose a little bit more. Taking our last few breaths here on this side. And then when you're ready, gently pushing yourself up. If you were belly down, I'm going to get into a tabletop pose and kind of rock the hips side to side, maybe do some hip circles. Feel free to do whatever movements feel good in between each side here. If you're on your back, you can do the same knee rock that we did before. Maybe extend your legs long and stretch. And then whenever you're ready, we'll set up for the opposite side. Again, taking your time, using your props, recognizing that one side might be a little more restricted than the other. Finding a good balance between getting a good stretch, but without causing undue strain on the body. And once you've found that good spot, trying to be still and letting the body release into this shape. Using the breath to release any areas that might be holding some tension, some muscle guarding. Keeping the face relaxed and soft. As you stay in this pose, maybe deciding that you can go a little deeper, or that maybe you want to come out a little bit and add more props. Take your last breath or two here on this side. And then when you're ready, you can slowly start to push yourself up. If you were face down, making your way into tabletop pose or any other counter pose that's calling you. If you're on your back, you can move in any way that's calling to you, just to kind of release out of that pose, get some movement back in the joints of the hips, of the knees. And we're going to make our way to sitting. So if you were lying down, roll over to a side, push yourself up. I'm going to use a blanket under my hips to support my hips a little bit. Feel free to add a blanket or multiple blankets or maybe pillows under the hips. We're going to set up for a wide-legged forward fold. I'm also going to be using a chair for my upper half to help support me in a little bit of a forward bend. So legs are however wide apart is comfortable for you, a comfortable stretch. Option for the pillows or blankets under the hips. Options for if you're using a chair, maybe use a blanket or a pillow on the chair seat to rest your head on. Or maybe if you want to lean further forward, you can use pillows or bolsters or yoga blocks to support your chest, head, shoulders, whatever. Again, finding that good balance of a good stretch, but no strain. And in yin with these postures, you can let your legs be floppy. You don't have to keep the toes pointing up to the sky. You can let them fall in. Focusing on trying to let the body completely relax, not holding anything. And again, choosing to focus your attention maybe on the breath, feeling it fill the belly on the inhale, releasing on the exhale. Maybe focusing your attention on the areas of the body that you feel a stretch or a relaxation happening. Maybe scanning the body, and if there's any areas of tension that you're holding, maybe using the breath to pay a little extra attention and love to those areas. Or maybe toggling your attention from an area of higher sensation to an area of lower sensation. All in an effort to stay present and mindful. If you're looking to one side, you might want to switch which way you're looking towards the opposite side. And again, maybe finding a way to get deeper into the pose if you're looking for a little more sensation, or backing out of the pose for a little less, moving the chair further in front for more, or closer to you for less, removing props as you see fit. Taking our last breath or two here. And then gently sitting yourself up, nice and slow. You can remove your props in front of you. And then maybe bring the legs so they're bent. Maybe do some windshield wiper knees or straighten the legs and wiggle them out. And then we're going to set up for a kind of a side bending Janusirsasana, Pravrita Janusirsasana. So I'm going to start with my right leg extended, left knee bent, so the foot is towards the groin. And then this is where I'm going to use my bolster, my pillow, and then I've got another little blanket as a pillow. So you want to have your bottom arm down, that same side down, and then the opposite arm can be up overhead and kind of resting over your head. Or you can keep it a little lower for a little less intensity of stretch, like I'm doing. We're trying to open up the side of the torso here, as well as stretching the extended leg. Finding that good balance of stretch and of release. Fostering that sense of surrender. Trying to stay present without being overly analytical. Or rigid. Taking your last breath or two here on this side. And slowly coming back up. And then maybe stretching your bent knee out, bending your stretched knee out, maybe both knees up, doing some seated cat-cows, holding onto the knees for some leverage. Again, any counter movements that feel good to you, doesn't need to be specific. And then when you're ready, setting up for the opposite side. Opposite leg extended, opposite knee bent in. Use your props. Maybe similar to side one, maybe different. Find where the arms are restful but still helping create a little bit of a deeper stretch through the side of the torso. And then just letting gravity do the work. Letting gravity pull you down, the props holding you up. Maybe noticing the breath. As you breathe in, that belly pulls into those props. Or maybe focusing on the side of the torso that is being stretched. Or maybe focusing on something completely innocuous, like the space between your eyebrows or your big toe. Take your last few breaths here. And then taking your time sitting up. Doing any release movements. And our last posture is Shavasana, corpse pose. If you have a different final restful posture that you'd like to do instead, you're welcome. If you're doing Shavasana, I encourage you to use all those props that you've been using to help support yourself in this Shavasana. I'll use a bolster under my knees, a yoga blanket for my head, and then another blanket for over top. You can add many more props if you'd like. I will only have us here for 5 minutes just to keep our class time a little shorter. I encourage you, though, to stay for longer than that. Pitta and Vata do well with at least 15 minutes, upwards to 30 minutes of Shavasana. So if you have more time, please take it. But if not, no worries. We'll be here for a few minutes. Once you find your comfortable position for all your bits and pieces, Try to find some stillness. Feel the symmetry of the body. Let the postures that we took settle in. We're letting your body assimilate those shapes. And now trying to maintain your focus, maybe on the breath still, maybe on the beating of your heart. Resting here in stillness for a few minutes, and I will guide you out when it's time. Stay here as long as you'd like, but if you're ready to come out, take a deep breath in, long, slow breath out. Wake up the body, wiggling fingers, toes, wrists, ankles, and stretch however feels good. I thank you so much for spending time with me, and I will see you next time. Until then, be well.